Get this thing. Uh-oh. Sounds like Shelley's getting her act together here. Well, Brian, you want to... I'll call this meeting to order, and then you can tell us what we got to do.
Yes, sir.
It's all yours.
Okay, this is Brian Yates. Welcome, everybody, to the Woodlands Metro Center MUD Board of Directors meeting for Monday, June the 14th, 2021. As in prior meetings, I'll briefly go through the remote meeting procedures and then perform a roll call. So to begin with, I need to remind everyone the meeting is being recorded as required by the Texas Open Meetings Act. Second, please remember to state your name before you speak, including the making of any motions. When you're not speaking, please be sure to mute your line. Third, we will continue the practice of having a roll call to vote on each motion. After a motion has been made and seconded, please wait until you hear your name called and then respond with a verbal aye, a nay, or an abstention. Finally, we need to identify each person who's joining the meeting remotely this evening so that we can accurately reflect the attendance in the minutes of the meeting. I'll perform a roll call for the board members, followed by staff and consultants. When you hear your name or your company called, please respond by indicating that you're present in the meeting. Likewise, if you need to leave the meeting before it adjourns, please announce that you're doing so before you disconnect. Once I've completed the roll call for directors, staff, and consultants, I'll ask for any members of the public to identify themselves for the record. So starting with our board of directors, Carl Kennedy.
Present.
Ron Wilson.
Present.
Gary Reed. Absent. Harry Alcott.
Present.
John Cozart.
Present.
Okay, we do have a quorum of our board present, so we'll move on to Woodlands Water staff. Jim Stinson.
Present.
Mike Mooney.
Present.
Shelley Lawson Kennedy.
Present.
Maureen Bourgeois.
Present.
Jeannie Scott. I think Jeannie's not going to be at the meetings this week. I think she had CLE training. Anyone else from Woodlands Water in the meeting? If not, we'll move on to San Jacinto River Authority staff. Ron Kelly.
Present.
Ed Shackelford.
Present.
Chris Meeks.
Present.
Matt Corley.
Present.
Anyone else from the River Authority in the meeting?
No, sir.
Okay. Any district, we'll move on now to district consultants. Do we have any Woodlands Metro Center MUD consultants in the meeting this evening? If not, we'll move on to members of the public. Do we have any members of the public present in the meeting? We need to identify you for the record as well. If not, that will complete our roll call. Carl, I'll hand it back over to you to begin the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Well, I guess, John Cozart, would you lead us in the pledges of allegiance?
I sure will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all. The Texas allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, thank you, John. Let's have a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the many, many blessings that you provide to us. We ask you to lead, guide, and direct us this evening as we consider various things that deal with our natural resources. Give us the wisdom to do the things that you would have us do. Be with each of us as we go through this meeting and on through the evening. Help us to stay clear of the virus that has been ravaging this country for a year and a half. These things we ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, based on the roll call, I did not hear anybody present from the public, so I guess we will have no comments from the public. Mike, do we have any requests for adjustments?
This is Mike. No, nothing this month.
Okay. Does anybody know of any reason why any of the items in the consent agenda should be pulled out and voted on separately? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Harry
This is Ron
Alcott, so
Wilson.
moved.
I think I heard a motion in a second.
Yeah, Ron Wilson, I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Brian, you ready to do the roll call?
This is Brian. Yes, sir. If there's no further discussion, we'll call the vote. Carl, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Harry?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Next item on the agenda is the San Jacinto River Authority report.
Good evening, directors. This is Matt Corley with the San Jacinto River Authority. Page 19 of your packet should be the Woodlands Monthly Operations Report for the month of May. Our blend ratio, groundwater to surface water, fiscal year to date is 49% groundwater to 51% surface water. And there were no permit violations for the month of May. Be happy to answer any questions regarding the monthly operations report. If not, I believe Ron had a few comments, and then I have an update regarding GMA 14.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions on the report?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, this is Ron Kelly. I just want to thank all those involved in the the Lone Stars public hearing that was held last week, providing any comments. There was a room full of about a dozen or dozen and a half folks from the Woodlands. I was very appreciative. Just a reminder that comments are still due, or still can be made through July 19th, and that there will be a GMA meeting to vote on that later this year, probably in October. And Matt, you want to provide any other details?
No, I was just going to mention the upcoming due date for written comments and the GMA 14 that's currently scheduled for October 9th, I believe. But I think that's anticipated to probably pushed out a little bit. October 6th is what it's currently scheduled for. But I think there's anticipation that that might get bumped out a little bit. So. Any questions regarding GMA 14? Well, thank you very much.
Believe so. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Matt, did you have anything else?
Oh, no, sir, I do not. Thank you. That concludes the report.
Okay. The SJRA Woodlands Division budget.
Yes, sir. This is Chris Meeks. This item's on the agenda in case any of the directors have any questions on the budget. We'll take those down and try to answer what we can.
Anybody have any questions?
None. Nope.
Okay, I hear none.
Thank you.
Brian, I believe you're up.
This is Brian. nothing much of a general nature to report under the attorney's report. The regular legislative session is over, as y'all know. We're working on our bill summary that we'll go through as in prior sessions and detail the bills that passed, the notable ones that didn't, that do or could have potentially had a material impact on the business or operations of the district. Should have that summary for boards at the July meeting. But that's all I have at this time under the attorney's report. Happy to answer questions if you have them.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you, Brian. Jim, are you going to inform us on the MCAD Board of Directors election, or who's going to handle that?
Yes, sir. I'm happy to do that. I think it might have been last month that y'all took the initiative to request that we have a special purpose district candidate in the MCAD election. And this month, we are recommending that you submit Arthur Bredehoff's name via resolution that's in your packet. Only one of our MUDs needs to submit a name, but if you're willing to take that initiative today, then the other MUDs will not need to act on it this week.
Okay, this is Ron. I know Arthur and worked with him on trustee board. He's a good man and he certainly cares. So if it's in order, I would make a motion to put Arthur up for the term.
I'll second it. This is Harry Alcott.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? If not, Brian, would you poll the directors?
This is Brian. If there are no further questions, we'll call the vote. Carl, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Harry?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, very good. Moving right along, who's gonna fill us in on the funding partnership with MUD 67?
If it's okay, I'd like to make some opening introductory review comments, and then I think Brian Yates and I both will talk about this. Maureen, can you make it where I can share my screen?
You can.
Okay. In your packets, we, I think is an insert. Here's Research Forest Drive. Here's the Woodlands High School, Bear Branch Soccer Fields, Kroger Center up here, Technology Forest, the college, Lone Star College. Anyway, Research Forest Drive currently is underwater and not passable in this area right here and around the Woodlands High School during a major storm event. And it was actually designed that way. I guess back when it was designed, the type of storms that we're seeing on a fairly regular basis now were only predicted to be what we would call the 100-year events, or a 1% chance of occurring in any given year. Well, we've seen this condition numerous times where research is not passable for east-west traffic coming from I-45 out to the western end of the Woodlands. They've got to detour up to College Park or back down to Woodlands Parkway. So this project that MUD 67 has taken the lead and sponsorship on has actually gotten approved by the Texas Water Development Board for funding assistance to complete it and do some improvements to Panther Branch through here and Bear Branch through here, which would leave this major thoroughfare passable during major rain events. Now, and in doing that, there's going to be some substantial benefits to this community or this neighborhood here, lowering the high water elevation by almost 3 feet during these events, where it's a foot or more underwater here around the high school. That's going to be lowered by 2.5 feet. And then over here in the Bear Branch soccer field area, a little over 2 feet. So Research Forest will be passable. There'll be some improvements to the homes that have incurred water and flooding in Mud 7 in this area, ponds, and numerous homes in the Capstone subdivision have flooded, and here in this Twinberry area also. So there's a big drainage benefit to doing this project. And now, how do I get to the share screen again, Maureen? I want to share another, okay. So this is a map of all the mud districts that contribute to this flooding on Research. Mud 47 is a large contributor, Mud 46, Mud 67, Mud 60 to a smaller amount. And we're not seeing the bottom of the map, but Mud 47 again is a large contributor, Mud 7 to a smaller amount. But so these muds are contributing to the water, making the road impassable during major storm events. So we're in thinking this project through, we kind of come up with there's a drainage benefit, but there's also a commerce and mobility benefit. And now we're going to be looking at funding partners for this and contributing money to the project. And what we're going to be looking at tonight is a listing of, there's the commerce and mobility benefit. This project is estimated to be about $10 million. And through some subjective, just kind of rationale, we've assigned a drainage benefit of about 7 million and a commerce and mobility benefit of about 3 million. And we're requesting that Metro Center Mud participate along with these other mud districts in the commerce and mobility benefit portion. And then these 3 muds will contribute to the $7 million drainage benefit. With those opening remarks, Brian, would you like to add some observations and comments as well, please?
This is Brian. Thank you, Jim. So as far as it relates to Metro Center Mud, the primary benefit and rationale for participation is that Research is one of what we'd say are 2 major thoroughfare arterials, east-west within the Woodlands. Those were originally constructed with funds from the road utility district in the area, because those roads provide financial benefits, provide people access to get to the town center area, and increase the property values of those commercial establishments in town center, which is in Metro Center. So in thinking about potential partners here, this project would improve drainage, that would alleviate mobility issues in events that have become much more frequent than once every 100 years, especially with the Atlas 14 rainfall data does indicate that these are much more frequent events than originally envisioned. I think the information that Jim's provided does show the amount of surface water elevation drop over two feet in the roadway areas. So, believe it was appropriate for Metro to be a partner in this project as well. Based on the current reserves of the district that are over close to 6 million on the operations reserve, 5.6 or so. It's not a contribution that would cause any sort of financial strain on Metro Center. I think on page 11 of your packet, it shows where your reserve is right now as opposed to your budget, and you're very healthy. So I think that the district could certainly handle this participation and partnership, and it would benefit Metro through the commercial property, and that's why we would certainly want for Metro to join in this project. And I think we're happy to answer any questions y'all may have, but we are looking for some direction from the district tonight, because that does roll into and impact all the other district participants that are listed there.
Brian, I guess I missed the comment, but what kind of dollars are we talking about for the Metro?
This is Brian. So the amount that Jim has on the spreadsheet, one is $1.5 million for Metro Center of the 10 million, and the other is a $1 million option. Of course, would prefer to be able to have the district to be able to participate at that 1.5 number, but at a minimum, the 1 million number.
Okay.
And
it's a $10 million, roughly estimated to be a $10 million project. $67 would be contributing. Sorry, go ahead, Ron or Carl.
The question was now exactly what action are we trying to take tonight?
This is Brian. I think the action tonight would be. Go ahead.
Is this a final decision tonight, or is this just preliminary?
This is preliminary tonight. It would be, because we're still working our way through final cost estimate, et cetera, but we do want to have an interlocal agreement prepared and approved among all the different participants to set out their cost contribution. So that's when it would be final, but we would be preparing that based on each district's anticipated cost contribution.
Okay.
And it's important to note that MUD 67 applied for this combination loan grant program through the Texas Water Development Board on behalf of the Woodlands as a whole. They're not, there's a number of different districts and areas that benefit outside of 67, but they were willing to go and do the initial work to hopefully get the loan, 0% loan for 30 years and the grant component approved. But they have been very clear from the outset that if there is not participation in excess of 50% from the other from other parties, then they're not going to move forward with the project. We're still hopeful that the county and or the township will participate, but can't expect that number or what that number would be. So the spreadsheet that Jim has prepared is on the assumption we didn't have other participants, but if we did, then that would certainly benefit the group overall. But we would want to have a commitment of an amount up to the 1.5 or 1 million, so we can move forward with planning and preparation of that interlocal agreement.
Brian, this is Ron. Are we sure that we don't have anything in any of our documents or our indentures that would prohibit us from participating in this?
This is Brian. No, it would be operating funds. It wouldn't be debt service, so it wouldn't have any impact on your bond documents. And you've got discretion on your operation and maintenance tax and water sewer revenue funds that comprise your operating account to use it for any water sewer drainage project that would be a benefit to the district, inside or outside the boundaries of the district.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
This is Harry Alcott. What kind of time frame do you anticipate this project to take? Would it go over a couple of years? Would it be an item that would be budgeted into our annual budget each year, or how do you see this thing getting paid?
This is Brian. So the way we have talked about it being structured, because this does have to sync up with the bond issue through the Water Development Board that 67 would do for its contribution. So what we've discussed is having the participating districts put their money up in cash after the interlocal, some interval of time after the interlocal agreement is approved, probably upon the closing of the 67 bond issue. That money would go into an escrow account. Each of the districts would put, pursuant to this interlocal agreement, each of the districts would put up their money in cash in that escrow fund. MUD 67 would put their bond proceeds into that escrow fund, and then that escrow fund would be drawn on as there are expenses, whether it be engineering and planning or actual construction costs. All that would be kept up with, and there'd be a final accounting at the end. And to the extent there were any remaining funds, those would get reimbursed to the participating districts on a pro rata basis. I think for Metro, we would have a hard cap on Metro's contribution. The other districts, if there's a cost overrun, there could potentially be a pro rata contribution and additional. But with Metro's contribution, we would probably put a hard cap number on that if it ran over, Metro wouldn't be responsible for cost overruns over their contribution amount.
This is Harry Alcott. At what point do we contact say the township center, to make them aware of this and see if they want to participate or will participate?
This is Brian. Those discussions are already happening and have been ongoing for a while. Jim's been taking the lead on that and has gotten some good feedback from the township, but no final commitment, and some mixed signals from the county, but still a possibility. So it's just hard to, it's hard to know for sure on how that's going to shake out, but certainly Jim's making every effort to get other partners and other contributions. But the timing issue is the Water Development Board requires that 67, if they're going to move forward, they've got to move forward on a fairly expedited time frame, or they lose the ability to get the 0% loan. And 67 is not going to move forward with a bond issue until they know, because once they issue the bonds, the soft costs and issuance expenses, those are sunk costs. And so they're not going to move forward with that until they know they've got commitments from at least the other MUDs on half or more of those expected costs. So they've got to have this wrapped up in order to move forward with the bond issue, in order to meet the Water Development Board's expedited time frame to be eligible for these funds.
Ryan, this is John Kozar. At what point is this going to begin, and what's the time frame for completion? Do you have any idea?
This is Brian. The engineer, LJA, is working through that right now. I don't know if we've got a firm. There's a lot of environmentals that have to be done. We're talking about, you know, digging up detention pond areas, and we're talking about working within a branch area that may require some environmental approvals. And so they're working through that now, but I don't know that we've got a firm time frame on completion. Jim, do we have a preliminary time frame at this point? Jim,
It looks like
Simpson,
he got
maybe on
signed
mute.
out.
Yeah, I think Jim Marine actually dropped out somehow.
Okay. Well,
Do that?
Jim would potentially be able to answer that question, but I haven't seen a firm time frame at this point. The Water Development Board wants a general time frame as well, so that is being worked on.
Okay, that's fine.
Jim is back. I see him now.
Yeah, my
Jim,
computer decided to restart. I'm sorry.
they were asking if we had any preliminary time frames or timelines from LJA on construction and completion. I said, you know, they're still working through some preliminary stuff and trying to figure out environmental requirements, but I didn't know if they had any rough preliminary timeline that you had seen.
You know, this is probably a 3-year, 2.5 to 3 year. Once we kind of get the go ahead later on this summer, this fall, just to get through the environmental and it's at least a 2-year project.
This is Ron. One thing, why would we need to put our money up now if you don't need it for a couple of years?
Well, no.
This is Brian. Because of the bond issue, because 67, the Water Development Board requires for 67 to close on its bond issue. They say they want it closed by November. We're trying to get, they do offer a one-time 3-month extension, so we're working to try to get that. But at the latest, they would have to issue those bonds by 3 months after that November, so February. So that's what's driving. It's the Water Development Board that's driving the time frame.
Thank you. Question 2. If we agree to put X dollars up, won't that discourage or won't that mean other people will say, well, wait a minute, it's paid for already. Why do we need to contribute?
This is Brian. Well, the interlocal agreement is not going to be finally approved by each of the participants until we've got some certainty on who those participants are. So I think that provides some, ability, some space for Jim to work in over that. But it's not something that can be open-ended because of the time frame from the Water Development Board. We really are going to have to wrap this up in the next month or two. So that's why we're asking for up to commitment from these districts now. If we get other participants, great. If we don't, we know whether we have a deal or not, or if 67 is just going to shut it down. They don't want to keep spending money on preliminary work on this project unless they know it's going to move forward, which, I understand that. They're saying we've already spent X amount to get it teed up on behalf of the community. It's time for folks to let us know if they're in or out.
So are we asking tonight for a specific amount from Metro?
This is Brian. Yes. Which, of course, could go down if we get other participation. But at this point, we would be seeking a commitment of $1.5 or $1 million from Metro. And again, the total project cost is $10 million. and there are 5 other district participants. MUD 67, if it's 1.5 million by Metro, MUD 67 would be putting up a little over 4.8 million. MUD 47 would be putting up close to 2.5. MUD 7 would be putting up about 800,000. MUD 46, based on their drainage benefit, would be putting up around 340 or so thousand, and MUD 60 would be putting up 86 and change. If Metro contributes $1 million, 67 is putting up 4.9. 47 is putting up close to 2.7. MUD 7 is putting up 830. 46 is putting up 400, a little over 450, and MUD 60 is putting up a little over 115. So in either scenario, Metro would certainly not be the top cost participator.
Brian, this is Carl. What if Metro agreed to contribute up to $1 million, and then some of the other potential parties don't come through like we would like for them to? Perhaps we could go on up to the $1.5 million, but if we agree tonight up to $1 million, would that kind of keep the ball rolling?
This is Brian. It would give us a number to be able to go to the other MUDs and say, we need each of you to be willing to contribute up to this amount. And then once we cycle through those meetings, we'll see where the rest of the MUDs are. And then, if there's an issue on one of the MUDs, then we can address that. And then if we get funds from the township and or the county, that would adjust everybody else's numbers down. So that would certainly allow us to have those conversations with the rest of the MUDs the rest of this week.
This is Harry Alcott. I'd feel more comfortable with that. I like that idea. I think the township has some skin in the game. I really do. I'd like to see what their response is. I imagine you might get a little pushback from the county, but from an economic development standpoint, the township I think has, as I said, skin in the game. So I kind of like what Carl's just suggested. If you got to get some kind of commitment from us tonight.
Okay, we can consider a motion to for Metro to contribute up to $1 million for the project, and then revisit it next month based on feedback we get between now and then.
Ron and John, how do y'all feel about it?
That's acceptable to me, John.
I guess I'm okay. I guess we've decided that it is our business. It's good for our business to have these people able to get to the market.
Yes.
So then the question then is how much it is. This seems like the best way to go.
Yes. Okay. Well, this is Harry Alcott. I would make a motion that what Brian has just done. I would so move that.
I'll second it, John Kozart.
Any further discussion?
This is Brian. It'll be a commitment of up to $1 million, and also authorize preparation of the interlocal agreement. So we'll get that going as well.
Okay.
Well, if no further discussion on it, Brian, why don't you poll the directors?
Yes, sir. This is Brian. If there's no further discussion, we'll call the vote. Carl, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ron,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
motion carries. Thank you.
All righty. Jim, I think we're ready for your report.
Okay, thank you, Carl. I'm going to review a few items from our trustee meeting. I did report that we continue to meet with TACUS. We have worked through our outside legal counsel and resubmitted invoices for damages to the 5 prime contractors working under TACUS. TACUS did assist us with identifying who those were, and we put on the invoice. We considered it past due, and I think gave them till next week to make payments. So we'll see what kind of response we get from those 5 prime contractors. At the trustee meeting, the trustees voted to recommend that our, well, first of all, they voted that they're going to hold their July meeting in person. They recommended that based on the survey, the straw poll, we had a number of directors that were not really ready to meet in person again. So I guess in recognizing that and trying to be, I guess, sensitive to that concern, the trustees recommended the MUDs hold off until August and begin meeting in person in August. There's also an update from HART in your packet. I did report we're still looking at the relocating of AMI poles. We're meeting with the township this week to look at some options at Sawmill Park and Forest Gate Park. And I did report that we are working with the San Jacinto River Authority on the topic of trying to secure funding if and when it becomes available from the Biden infrastructure bill. The River Authority certainly has greater immediate needs than the MUD, so we thought it'd be worthwhile to try to partner on that. We are developing a short list of lobbyists and consultants, and I've also coincidentally ran into Kevin Brady over the weekend at HEB, and he's agreed to meet with us and talk about maybe giving us some guidance in our desire to get some of those funds. So more to come on that. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Ron?
I think, now this is Ron, I think Jim just gave the report for the trustee meeting.
That's a short report there, Ron. Good.
Yeah. So I'm going to say ditto what Jim said.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Anybody have anything they want to put on the agenda for next meeting?
Just one other thing before we adjourn. Ron Kelly, can you give just a brief summary of where we are with the 50-50 rate analysis for the surface water allocation? You had explained to me that you're going to be needing to develop a rate structure and use a rate consultant. Just a couple of quick comments on that.
Sure. Yes, we'll be needing to work with a rate consultant because, well, I don't need to get into the whys. We will be working with a rate consultant. Hopefully that will go to consideration by our board sometime later this summer. And then anticipation that we'll work with a rate consultant over the fall. But it will not be this is one of those items where quick is not always the best. Crossing the dotting I's and crossing the T's on this is going to be more important. So. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, well, let's adjourn.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Thanks, Carl. Bye.
You bet. Y'all have a good evening.